Do you ever picture yourself lifting a trophy?
I've got real pictures, mate.
Every single clip I see of you, I'm thinking, I like this man more.
Today we're joined by Glenn's Vodka Premiership Manager of the Year, Ange Postecoglou.
He's a very motivational speaker, I think.
I'm so grateful that I'm working with him.
This is the first time that we have Australian coaches at the top level in Europe.
They normally hate managers.
But don't question my integrity when I say he's injured, he's injured. Just don't correct me, please.
You're one of the ones that kind of across the ball seems to be liked by everyone at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. Geography in our passport still is a heavy burden for us to carry.
Basically, my CV meant very little.
Ange Postecoglou is one of the fastest rising managers in world football.
Ange Postecoglou is the Premier League's Manager of the Month for the third time in a row.
But his journey to the Premier League was no easy one.
It was like going to those Hollywood auditions and getting rejected. I just didn't know who I was, and it was so depressing.
He became the first ever Australian to manage in England's top flight.
What you have to go through, the doors you have to break down, the stereotypes you have to break down, it's tenfold as a manager, as a coach.
Geography in our passport still is a heavy burden for us to carry.
Ange has dealt with adversity his entire life. So how did he finally manage to reach the promised land? To answer this, we need to go back to the moment he was born.
We were immigrants, right? We took that leap, we went there, we stayed in a sort of refugee camp for a little while. I had a father he was just working all the time, mate. And the only thing that he kind of kept inside of him from the old country was this love of football. Somehow he just ingrained this real love of the game to me, that it became an overriding passion.
Ange's passion for football eventually manifested itself with a professional career. He made 193 appearances for South Melbourne in the National Soccer League. Unfortunately, his tough upbringing served as a precursor to his playing career.
27, you had a serious injury.
I really feel, even in retrospect now, that my playing career was just a precursor or preparation for me to be a manager. I kind of knew there was a limit to where I could go as a footballer. You know? I enjoyed it, I was passionate about it, but I always felt much more comfortable once I started sort of on my coaching journey.
Ange officially stepped into the world of coaching, making his return to South Melbourne. He wasted little time leaving a mark, leading the club to consecutive league titles.
Is it the start of another dynasty?
As a young coach, he was very successful in the old National Soccer League. He won 2 championships.
Ange was well on his way to becoming the best manager in A-League history. But is that what he wanted?
Ange was eventually offered to coach the Australian youth teams.
I would now get to challenge myself internationally, not just domestically. And
see, Ange's early managerial career wasn't exactly smooth sailing.
Because the National Soccer League was on its last legs, the support structures required to actually do that job, particularly in a development role, were probably not there for him.
I didn't coach well because I started worrying about all this pressure that was intensifying over the fact that we hadn't got results at youth level for a few years.
After failing to qualify for the 2007 Under-20 World Cup, Ange was officially sacked.
You are paid to qualify the team, then when you get there, you should get... Yeah, I think you should put your hand up and say, in the last 2 qualification campaigns, I've failed and I'm paid to do it.
So things started to go downhill from then on.
Suddenly he'd gone from the guy that could do no wrong to a guy you couldn't employ.
After spending 2 long years on the sidelines, Ange finally made his return to Australian football. Suddenly, he's got a golden opportunity to silence the doubters. And once again, he delivered. Ange officially became the most successful Australian domestic football coach in history. He continued to cement his legacy in the A-League, taking his talents to Melbourne victory. But there was only one problem.
The Socceroos were at the bottom of the toilet.
2 A-League titles and the longest undefeated streak in Australian history. In 2013, he became the Socceroos head coach.
On the 23rd of October 2013, Ange was appointed head coach of the Australia national team. But with the 2014 World Cup looming, this was going to be tougher than any task he's ever had.
You know, what others saw as something daunting, I saw as an opportunity to make the mark I've always wanted. And we almost did.
Australia finished last in their group, but everyone could see the potential with the team.
We lost 3 games, but that performance in Brazil made me very proud.
We played some of the best football. We kept the ball. We rattled teams.
Once the players have faced the world's best, well, there shouldn't be anything to fear moving forward. I want us to be someone who's a country that's feared, and you know, we've done it in every other sport, and there's no reason why we can't do it in this.
And that potential manifested itself in 2015. After a gruelling match in the final, Ange led Australia to Asia Cup.
It's a great game, mate. It's a fantastic game. I'm biased. I think it's the greatest game in the world, and hopefully from now on us Aussies can take on the world with it, because I've got a real belief in these young guys, and we'll move on from here.
Ange's impact on the Australian national team was immense, and he had the chance to break more records at the 2018 World Cup. But this pride for Australia has come at a cost.
Now, it seems a World Cup isn't the holy grail in football. Australia's Socceroos coach Ange Postecoglou has resigned, saying that the job took a toll on him.
Probably not the ending I'd envisaged when we started, but at the same time, knowing it's the right time for me and the right decision.
This man is not scared of taking risks. If anything, he seeks them out. On 19 December 2017, Ange left Australia to join Yokohama F. Marinos in Japan.
I love my time in Japan. It was probably the most challenging thing I've done, because one of my most I'd say effective tools was taken away from me, and that was language.
Transitioning to a new country, new language and new culture, this decision carried considerable risk.
For me, it was just about understanding the culture in Japan, understanding the club, understanding the people here.
But as we learned time and time again with Ange, he wasn't a man who saw things as a disadvantage.
While many saw me having the bulk of my career on this side of the world as a disadvantage, for me it was an advantage, because I had to work so much harder in terms of my knowledge. I hit the ground running, mate. I knew exactly what I was taking on in terms of the club, history and current status, and also the competition that I was going to.
After a 15-year drought, Yokohama finally reclaimed their spot at the top, all thanks to Ange.
Now they are J-League champions, and it's hard to think of an Australian coach with a bigger triumph on the international sporting stage.
Yeah, we had a common purpose, and everyone was building towards that common purpose, and I think that's what family's about. We had the success.
Ange had now conquered 2 different countries, but his dreams of conquering Europe didn't change one bit.
Nothing there that you could say, okay, even what I'd done in Japan has made an impact. So basically, my CV meant very little, and I kind of resigned myself to the fact that it doesn't matter what I did on the other side of the world, it wasn't going to have an impact over here.
It was going to take a miracle for him to get an offer, but that miracle arrived in 2021.
The world works in mysterious ways, and in the end I ended up at one of the biggest clubs in Europe.
Celtic have appointed Ange Postecoglou as their new manager.
What do you know about it?
Very, very, very little. Came out of nowhere. We thought we were getting Eddie Howe for the last 6 months.
Did you feel like this is it? This is what I've been waiting for?
I was looking forward to it, because it was kind of the bit that was missing. I'd had the success, I knew I could do the job.
For Ange, the pressure had not dropped one bit. Celtic are one of the biggest clubs in Europe, with fans as passionate and demanding as they can get.
In here, they're not fans, they're not supporters. This is who they are. This is their family. This is the extension of them. So when they come to the game, they're invested.
You've almost brought a connection with the supporters, which has helped the team play.
It's not just about winning for them. They want to see their team play in a certain way, a certain style of football. But as I keep telling people, the reason that I get my teams to play this way is because I've had a lot of success, and I'll continue to have success with it.
With his signature style of attacking football, Ange won over the fans and, more importantly, the silverware.
Ange Postecoglou won his first trophy as Celtic manager.
Celtic have been crowned Scottish Premiership champions. Ange Postecoglou has taken the club forward after being appointed.
For the second Scottish League Cup final in a row, Kyogo Furuhashi scored twice to help Celtic to the trophy.
Celtic secured the Scottish Premiership title for the second year in a row. Celtic have won the Scottish Cup to seal their 5th domestic treble in 7 years.
Yeah, it's a great feeling, and great to have my family here, my kids here, and yeah, it's been a hell of a journey to get to this spot, and it's bizarre how I've landed here, but I have. It meant a lot, not just for me, but for the people who've supported me, and people who have believed in me when others haven't.
Ange exploded onto the scene, and it didn't take long for a Premier League team to invest.
OK, breaking news coming to us from Tottenham. Let's go to Michael Bridge.
Spurs have their new coach, and it is Ange Postecoglou.
Ange had finally made it. But did he have any time to soak up the moment? Not a chance.
Bayern Munich and Tottenham have agreed a deal now for England captain Harry Kane.
Yeah, it was obviously disappointing to lose Harry. Harry's one of the best footballers in the world, I think.
Best players gone, yes, okay, but we're going to play this way, we're going to train this way, we're going to behave this way.
But Ange, as we know, time and time again, is not one to let misfortunes get in the way of his goals. And maybe it'll take time for him to deliver the trophies. But maybe the fans are patient enough to trust his process.
I've not been this excited over a manager coming in since Terry Venables. I think he's that good.
We can get there in the next maybe 2 or 3 seasons with Ange and some really good, recruitment.
Final question then, how far do you think this group can go?
I've kind of learned in my life not to put a limit on where I'm going to end up. I'm not going to put a limit on what this football club can do.
Ange has been in the game for a very long time. And what makes him so special isn't his tactics or style of play, but something else.
Motivation is important because every day is a little bit the same, so you need to hear sometimes different stories and different things about life that can give you a little bit edge on the day, so it helps absolutely, and he is very inspirational in his team talks before the games, before the training, so when he starts to speak, like you're a happy man that you're listening.
You just want honesty, you just want someone to tell you how it is, and
you could be, one part of your life could be flying, but there'll be something. It could be a family member, it could be a health issue, it could be a financial issue. There's always something, and footballers are not immune from that.
If you're a human being, you will make mistakes. Even if you're a robot, you're going to make mistakes. No one's perfect. None of us can walk around and say we have the answers to everything, and sometimes just living life means you're going to make mistakes, and you learn from them. It's something that I consistently tell people that, whatever you do, if you give your absolute best in, you'll get, the outcomes you want.